Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgenson.
Welcome out to Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio. I'm your host, Tyler Jorgenson, and today I have the honor and the privilege of talking with an entrepreneur who has a little bit of both sides of the coin. And what I mean by that is he's actually done brick and mortar before doing all this digital stuff. And I'm a huge fan of talking with entrepreneurs that have done both, because I think that they have a different perspective on business than people who have just done one. So welcome out to the show, Andy Audate.
I'm super excited to be here, Tyler, man. You are rocking the game, and I love the radio voice that you have, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Everyone says I have a face for radio. So so here's my thing. I know that you were one of the youngest franchise owners of a specific franchise, right? Which one was it?
Yes, T-Mobile.
T-Mobile. And so you were young in the game hustling. When was the moment that you first realized you were an entrepreneur?
When I took my mom's lemonade from the kitchen and went outside, and I took her cups, her glass cups and plastic cups, and I went outside and I sold each one for $1.
Yeah, that was good old mom, the venture capitalist, funding your first venture. So you're out there hustling. Would you pay mom a percentage to cover the cost, or were you just keeping the profits?
I was keeping the profit, man. I was keeping the profit. I'm talking about, hey, I'm gonna grab your $4 lemonade that you bought. I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna sell a cup for $1. And I got 15 cups out of that lemonade. Kept the $15, and that's when I said, "Ha, Eureka! This is the game. 100% profit margins. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do it."
Yeah, for sure. And there's not a lot of businesses that have 100% margin, but that, starting the first one from stuff in your mom's kitchen is one. I think a lot of entrepreneurs start that young. You're just, as a kid, you're seeing problems differently. You're solving problems. And what was your first entry into kind of real business?
The first business that I started was like a legitimate, like, legal business. When I say legal, I'm talking about LLCs, okay?
Yeah.
LLCs and so forth, S corps and essentially a structured business. The first one was when I did the cell phone store. I started off as a sole proprietor. I made like 150 grand. And then someone suggested I incorporate the business, and that's when I incorporated the business. So many entrepreneurs are like, hey, let's get the LLC started. Let's set up the structure and the bank accounts first. The first thing I did was I went out there and I sold the product, which was cell phones, and then I made some cash, and then I had enough money to pay the accountants to set up the business correctly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people they get hung up in all the things they think they need instead of just testing out the idea. Can I do this business? Make a couple bucks, make a couple sales, and then you can afford stationery and accountants and all this stuff.
Yes.
Why did you get out of cell phones and we're going to go into now what you're working on?
So one of the reasons why is, as an entrepreneur, I expect freedom. I expect that I can have the utmost freedom by being my own boss in this scenario. And in 2000, and I think this was 2015, there was a storm that was taking place in Rhode Island, which is where I'm from, the smallest state in the country. And in this storm, I told all my employees, I said, hey guys, you don't have to come to work. There's no one driving around to buy a phone today. There's a storm up to my waist. And what T-Mobile did is they sent out ASRs, which is account service representatives. They manage the franchises in specific territories. And they were driving around looking at stores if they were open, essentially looking to find if anyone was closed, and my store was closed. They sent me my ASR called me and said, "Hey Andy, the location is closed." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I closed it. Man, no one's buying phones, and I'm not paying payroll just to have someone sit there." And they said, "You have to open," and then they gave me all the legal lingo. And I said, I felt smothered. I was back at a job. I just worked for another corporation, and I take majority of the risk. So I remember I was cleaning my car off. I already gave my team the day off. I was cleaning my car off, and I said, I'm never going to be put in this position again. I want freedom. And that's what started the venture to create a digital business where it doesn't matter where I'm at, I still make money.
Yeah, I think sometimes a single franchise owner, a single location owner, you have all the worst parts of being an employee, right? You have all the responsibility, you still have the job, you still have to do everything, but you also then have liability and all these other things unless you're going to really scale brick and mortars or multiple locations, you really stay in that risk and lack of freedom section. So you decided you wanted to go into digital. What'd you do?
So I transitioned. My first transition was, this is between you and I, Tyler, and everyone that's listening. My first transition is I became a personal trainer, actually. I went online. I was in my fitness journey. I was heavy into fitness at that time. And I said, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable. I don't have the NASM certification. So my job is I'll hold you accountable. You pay a fee for me to hold you accountable. That was the beginning of me going down this rabbit hole of identifying what's going to be my thing. So I went from a personal trainer. I became a motivational speaker. I sold ebooks. This was hot around the ebook era. And I sold ebooks. I created ebooks. This was before ChatGPT. And then from there, my knack for speaking, especially this happened at church, my knack for speaking, and someone prophesied over me and said, hey, you're going to be a speaker. So I thought I was going to be a rapper when they said, yeah, you're going to speak, you're going to orate. But I ended up becoming a motivational speaker, and I traveled with Les Brown, the motivational speaker. We would travel around the country. My job was to fill up the seminar rooms for him. And then from there, I started making money speaking and selling online courses. And that's where I essentially settled at for a couple of years, selling online courses and speaking on stages and filling up seminar rooms for big motivational speakers.
So for someone who desires freedom, for someone who really says, I want to have control, speaking is neat, but it also means you must be one place at one time.
Yes.
Right. So I know that you segued and started doing webinars. Was this a part of that, like a consistent pursuit of freedom where you wanted to still be able to speak, but also have some flexibility?
The webinars I was forced to do webinars, and especially during COVID-19. So in 2018, I envisioned this concept of hosting hosting events under Andy Audate brand, my personal brand, because I was tired of marketing another person's name.
There you go.
And I said, hey, I wanna host events under Andy Audate brand. I was completely fearful of doing that. And then I waited a year. So 2019, I finally made the decision. So now the tour was set for 2020. I had 13 cities booked: Ohio, Atlanta, Miami, Dallas, Houston, 13 cities. It was 13 cities. North Carolina was one of them, and New York was another. And then from there, because I had a relationships marketing other people's names, I already had those relationships there, and I already had an email list there. So I knew I was going to be able to fill out the room. The first event was in Atlanta, Georgia, in March of 2020. So 2019, I commit. It took me a couple months to set up the entire tour, establish relationships. First event is March of 2020. COVID-19 happens. I called the hotel and I'm like, hey, I'm going to ship out my AV equipment. And they're like, hey, look, you heard of COVID-19? And I said, no, I got an iPhone 11. I never heard of this COVID-19. What are you talking about? And that was the start of a downhill era for the in-person events.
For sure.
And then in order for us to transition and deliver to all my sponsors and speakers, I just took it online, and that's what became the webinar game for me.
That's pretty awesome. So let's talk a little bit about a couple of things you're working on. So one, I want to hear more about what you're doing with webinars, but I really want to hear about what you've created with chatautomation.io.
So number one, with webinars, because I had the skill set of speaking in front of large groups, I realized that you can take that same skill set, instead of selling one-to-many on a in-person stage where you're responsible for AV, where you're responsible for flying people in, equipment, and so on and so forth, food, beverage, hotel costs, you could do the same experience online and get better results. So in 2020, I had a day that changed my life forever, which I made $75,000 on one webinar, left the event and went into my living room, and my wife was watching Netflix, and she had no clue what took place in our spare bedroom, right? Because there's no audio, it's essentially soundproof. I added the Home Depot stuff on the walls.
Yeah.
So I'm over here like, and you're gonna get this, 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 and the total air price is this, and why today? And everyone just got an influx of $1,400 from the government that time, and a lot of it went to me. And I sold my product, and I left, walked into my living room, and I said, babe, I'm not doing an in-person event again, because I just made 75 grand without having to fly out anywhere. And I'm going to spend the night with you on Friday night, watch TV. Yeah. So webinars is a tool for you to communicate at scale. Instead of you doing one-on-one sales calls, you can put a large group of people in a Zoom room, give them an opportunity to understand what your message is, why you do what you do, a little bit about your story, know about your business, and make an offer. So that way they can know who you are, like you, and trust you, and ultimately make a decision to purchase from you or not. And you can do that at scale.
Absolutely. So when you did the first one on just on Zoom, like from where you started with webinars, from like a tech stack and a difficulty and a complexity, have you kept it really simple, or have you really leveled up the game?
I've leveled up my game. When I first started, actually, my wife recorded a video of me. I was in the living room. I had those two screens that you buy from Best Buy, and my laptop was on my wife's living room. That was one of my first webinars, and I didn't even have a PowerPoint. It's like I failed to remember that piece of the puzzle. And the first one specifically, no PowerPoint. I dressed up in a whole suit, blazer and everything, and I didn't have a PowerPoint. I forgot what I was saying. I forgot to make an offer, made $0 on that first webinar. So it's been a progression since. I've leveled up to the point where I do one a month every single month, and I've done over 344 of them. Sometimes in a month we'll do 2 of them, sometimes we'll do 3, sometimes we'll do 4, and sometimes I'll bring in other speakers to host my webinars. However, today it's like a full-on studio. Got a whole headset mic, got lights, got extra cameras, got a 49-inch curves monitor with all the things that I'm working on. So it's a whole production today.
Yeah.
But before, it just started off in a living room with no headset, with no microphone, just my voice and a laptop.
I think it's really good that you said that your first one you didn't make any money, because I know a lot of people that have gotten into, they say I'm going to do a webinar, and they don't make money on their first one, so they stop.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it didn't work. And it's like, no. That was just getting in a rep, right? You just got to get in the reps. What is your word of encouragement to people who have maybe tried webinars in the past, but need to, it didn't work for them?
You got to keep going. You got to keep going. If I had said at the lemonade stand, man, I didn't get a valuation and exit this business for millions of dollars, I should stop business, that would have been the wrong move at the lemonade stand, right? It's the fact that I kept going. So if you're listening and you're like, hey, I did my first one, I did my second one, I did my 10th one, I did my 15th one, and I still am not producing the results, you got to keep going. It's very similar to lifting weights. It's very similar to doing any new skill set. The more you do it, the more you progress.
Absolutely. So talk to me about the power of chat automation.
So when I hosted my job in filling up seminar rooms, I would go to different businesses and I would need to sell tickets. So here's what that looks like. Just so everyone understands what that looks like. A motivational speaker books a city, and they're going down to a specific city. Let's just use Dallas, Texas. They book Dallas, Texas, and then when they book Dallas, Texas, they might have a venue for 400 people. They'll typically hire a marketing agency to go and sell tickets, to run ads, so on and so forth, to sell those tickets. Now, out of the 400 seats that are available, let's say the marketing agency only sold 200 tickets. What they'll do is they'll call an FSR, a field sales representative, and they'll fly them down, pay for the hotel, pay for the rental car, and they'll say, hey, we need an additional 200 tickets sold, and you have 4 or 5 or maybe 6 weeks left in the cycle to go ahead and market this event, because the ads aren't performing the way that we need it to perform, and it makes more sense for us to send somebody down. Now, when I get down in that city, I'm going to go to all the real estate businesses. I'm going to go to all the car dealerships, and I'm going to go do a free presentation. So for example, if I call Honda and I go to Honda, I'm going to say, can I do a presentation for 30 of your guys? And they'll say, yes, come in and motivate them, give them tools. And then at the end, I'll sell tickets. So if I get 30, 40, 50 people in front of me, the manager, with the manager support, I may be able to get half of the audience to buy tickets. So 10 meetings could turn into 150 registrants. That's the strategy, to put bodies in the room. Now, when I would go to these events, I would pass out a legal pad asking each person for their name, email, and phone number on a document, on a sheet. So I would pass out this piece of paper and I'll say, can you put your name, your email, phone number? I'll send you more information later. Now, here's what always happened, especially with the bigger rooms. I never got everyone's name, email, and phone number because it would take so much time, and then somebody had a coffee and it would spill, and then they'd have to rip it off and reset, and then the pen would break. So I always had these problems getting people's name, email, and phone number, and that's where the money was at. So I thought about this concept, chat automation, and I had to build it years ago in Zapier, in TextMagic, and a bunch of other softwares together, where I would tell an audience member, or the entire audience, text me the word winner to my phone number, and I would give you this thing for free. And I would therefore generate their name, email, and phone number of every single person in the audience. Now today, our software Progretta does that for our clients, where you can set that up in less than 4 minutes, and you can have a chat automation where someone could text you a specific keyword, and the software will automatically respond to that person, asking for their name, email, phone number. And so you're collecting their data, but you can also automate a sales appointment on the back end. And all of that can be done automatically, whether it's one person, 100 people, or 1,000 people at any given time.
See, this is what I love about people who have worked in the streets as well as, in the digital world, because the idea of taking the things that used to work and still work technically when you're out, but just making them better with technology is so powerful. So, you replaced the messy, sloppy notepad into an automation system that gets people immediately into your CRM, right? You used to have to go home and try to transcribe all of those messages into some type of a system. Hopefully you could read everyone's handwriting.
Yes, that's a problem.
Or, is that a 7 or a 1? And so now you've got everything there. It's all dialed in. And then now you use this for yourself, but you also then offer this as a software as a service, right?
Correct. So not only is it great for speakers who are in the field, but also for people who are local brick and mortar businesses. So, for example, in the cell phone, in the brick and mortar space, the way that I would do it is I would say text the word, like we have hair salons, for example, utilizing this. We have insurance companies. Text the word quote to this phone number to receive your free quote, and that starts the sales process. We have companies as big as Progressive utilizing this, franchises of Progressive utilizing this technology. And the way that it starts is text the word quote to this phone number, and our chat automation kicks in. It captures the name, email, phone number of the prospect, and then sends it to the agency, and then the agency can now follow up. And this is somebody who's driving by a billboard or someone's walking by your store, never entered your facility, but you now have the name, email, and phone number of someone who's genuinely interested to do business with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andy, in addition to all these cool things you're working on, I know that, like you mentioned, you've been on a fitness journey. You've had a lot of things going on in life. What is one major challenge that you had to face over the past decade, and how'd you overcome it?
One of the biggest challenges that I had to face was probably imposter syndrome. Coming from where I come from, the smallest state in the country, I was raised in the smallest city in that state. So I'm from Rhode Island, and I was raised in the smallest city in that state, 1 square mile from one end to the other. And one of the things that I had to really fight was the fact that I see some players that are big online and on the internet and on stages, and I asked myself, how can I compare, knowing that I come from the smallest state in the country, the smallest city, raised around drug dealers, gangbangers, and so forth? How could you compare and add value to the world like these people are? That's one of the biggest things that I had to face. But what I ultimately let myself know is that's an attack by the devil to keep me small, because there is a group of people that's depending on me to be successful, and those people aren't going to receive the benefits if I don't show up. And that's my message to the world, is there's a group of people that's depending on you, regardless of where you come from, your background, your origination. There's a group of people depending on you to be successful. So if you can identify what's your avenue of success and you go all in, knowing that you'll be attacked spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, if you keep prospering, you will win. That's number one. And number two, there'll be a group of people that will thank you for it down the road.
Andy, that's awesome. I really hope people follow you on social media. We'll link all those things in the show, but I believe it's just Andy Audate on most socials. They can find you pretty quickly. But to me and to you, it sounds like as well, business isn't just about making money, right? It's also about having a life that you enjoy, having lifestyle freedom. What is one personal item on your personal bucket list you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
Having a baby boy.
You already know it's a boy, or is that what you're manifesting?
That's what I'm manifesting right now.
Okay.
Man, my wife ain't pregnant, but
all right, we got 3 months to make
I'm manifesting, man.
Well, that's a good one. And is this your first? Do you guys have kids?
No kids right now. My current kid is my company.
Yeah,
so
man.
No kids right now.
Good luck on that transition. It's a really awesome stage. Nothing more rewarding than raising kids. But
do you have little ones?
No, man. I have 4 old ones. My kids are old now.
So you've gone through the journey 4 times.
Oh yeah. No, my youngest is 14. So
okay, got it.
They're getting older. But Andy, really appreciate you coming out on the show. Everyone, please go give him a follow, give him a shout out. Let him know that there ain't no imposter syndrome needed over there with Andy Audate. He's the real deal, brings the fire. Grateful for you. We'll have tons of bonuses and stuff in the show notes. So please check out bizninjaradio.com. Check out Andy's episode to catch all of those links. And to all my entrepreneurs, my biz ninjas, wherever you are, it's your turn to go out and do something.
Yes.